back to another Take the Lead podcast. I am your host, Tara Chantel, and this episode is going to be something special. I have LaToya, the queen. You are phenomenal of everything that what you do. I would love for you to introduce yourself to us, but hey, just don't, just drop some sauce in there. Tell them really everything that you give to us because this is going to be something special. Thank you, LaToya.
Absolutely, Tara. First and foremost, I appreciate you for having me on board with you. I do not take it for granted. I recognize what you're doing, and I realize that there can be so many other people on this platform with you right now. So I just want to take the opportunity to tell you thank you for having me here. Secondly, my name is LaToya Dwight. I am the founder of the Fibroid Pandemic, which is actually a company that provides resources to women and their families who are living with uterine fibroids. And the reason why I say families is because oftentimes women who experience uterine fibroids, those who are within close proximity to them also suffer, whether they're in the same household or within the same, relationship or whatever. And I say that because, uterine fibroids, they are non-cancerous tumors of the uterus. And oftentimes women experience several different side effects, such as lethargy, menorrhagia, which is basically prolonged and heavy menstrual cycles, pica, infertility, the list goes on. So if a woman experiences a lot of those symptoms, she's not going to be intimate with her spouse because her menstrual cycles may last for 15 days or 30 days or 45 days, or she may be so lethargic because she's lost so much blood that she has become anemic, and she's not going to really have the energy to go out and play kickball with her child out back. So that's why I say that we provide resources to women and their families who are living with uterine fibroids.
Wow. Can you please go deeper because about our menstrual cycle, the awareness, how it is not supposed to be last 2 weeks that long. What is the effects so we can avoid that long time of having our period?
Absolutely. So a woman's cycle should last no more than 5 days. I would go on the record and saying 7 at the very maximum. Anytime a woman's cycle lasts more than 7 days, you need to be alert. You need to pay attention. And the reason why is because there could potentially be some underlying conditions there, such as uterine fibroids, PCOS, endometriosis, all types of things, different types of infertility or reproductive issues can be present. So because of that, it's definitely helpful for you to be cognizant of your body and to watch how your body changes throughout the years. A young woman who's in, 12 years old or early teenage years, she should never experience a menstrual cycle that's lasting 7 days on end to a point to where she has to, have her parents let her out of school, off school every single month for the first 2 to 3 days of her menstrual cycle. That's not normal. That's just not normal. Even as adult women, our cycles become so heavy that we end up having to call out of work the first 2 days of our menstrual cycle as adults. So if you just look at that transition period between our teenage years to, early to mid adult years and experiencing things like that for so long, there's definitely something going on. Well, the likelihood is very great that there's something going on. So that's why I always tell women to pay attention to your body. I did not pay attention to my body for receiving the diagnosis of uterine fibroids. As crazy as it may sound, it was actually a silver lining for me because it provided an answer to a lot of the things I had been feeling previously, but I simply chopped it up to the fact that I was getting older. Oh, I'm always tired when I get home from work because I'm older. My son is 27 years old. Pain during my menstrual cycle. Oh, it's just a menstrual cycle. My menstrual cycles are getting heavier. I just chop it up to the fact they're just getting heavier. I'm getting older. That was normal, but it's not normal. So when you see those signs, definitely take heed to it and have those in-depth conversations with your doctor and don't hold up. I'm not saying to debate with your doctor, but if you do not feel as though your doctor is giving you answers that you are comfortable with, Get a second, third opinion. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, wow. What should we be eating like properly?
Mhm.
I know you're big on celery juice. Can you tell us the benefits
Yes.
of that as well? But like, what should we be eating so we can take care of our body?
Absolutely. That's a really good question. So I hesitate to answer that because the vegan community is probably going to kill me. But a vegan diet tends to be very kind to your body. I'll say those words. I'll use those words. I used to be a vegan. I am no longer a vegan. I was vegan for about a year back in 2017, 2018. I am no longer a vegan for several different reasons. But if you're able to maintain a vegan diet, fantastic. However, the main key items, especially for women who have uterine fibroids, number one, eliminating all dairy products from your diet. I know that the food pyramid chain or whatever says, a balanced diet consists of red meat and a mix of carbs and dairy. Absolutely no. That is so far from the truth. So you definitely want to eliminate all dairy products. I will be honest in telling you that my diet probably consists of maybe 5% dairy. And the reason why I say maybe is because if I go get a slice of Ezekiel bread toast, I'm putting real butter on it. I'm not putting the spread on it because the spread actually has so many other chemicals. It's actually worse for you. Either way, it's bad. So our bodies tend to be able to digest butter better than it can with the fake stuff. Either way is still not good for you. But other than that, I don't eat any dairy products. I may splurge every now and then. When I say every now and then, I mean every now and then, maybe once every 3 months, once every 2 months. I may splurge a cupcake or something like that. But I also know that I focus on eating a lot of fresh organic fruits and veggies. So to your point, I juice a lot of fruits and veggies. One of my favorites is celery juice. Celery juice is amazing. It's a diuretic. It helps as far as it's detoxifying, which is giving you so much energy in and of itself. It's loaded with vitamins and minerals. There is this book, or actually this gentleman called the Medical Medium. If you haven't heard of him, definitely check him out. He has a book on celery juice and how amazing celery juice is to the body. I also love juicing. I call it my ABC juice. It's apples, beets, and carrots. It sounds horrible, but it's not as bad as people think it is. Like fresh beets, they don't taste anything like the beets that you get from the store. So I just cut them up and juice them and literally drink them straight. And I love it. It gives me so much energy. It helps minimize the bloating, the inflammation that a lot of women experience with uterine fibroids. But also with the fresh fruits and veggies, it also helps build your iron, because women who with fibroids tend to have very heavy menstrual cycles to a point where they become anemic. So if you're noticing where your hair, your skin and nails, your hair is like falling out, your skin's really breaking out, your nails are brittle, that is probably a telltale sign that you may have anemia. Now, if the fibroids did not exist, chances are that you will no longer be anemic. So things of that nature, incorporating fresh fruits and veggies, eliminating dairy products, eliminating sweets, high fructose corn syrup. There's sugar in just about everything we eat. If you go buy a bottle of salad dressing, it's loaded with sugar. You'll be amazed at how much sugar is in the food that we eat, right? So just be very cognizant of the amount of sugar that you consume, because as sugar metabolizes, it metabolizes into fat, which is the hormone, actually carries the hormone estrogen. So when there's a dominance of estrogen in our bodies, you tend to see things like uterine fibroids, although there's no known medical fact of what actually causes uterine fibroids. It is known that a dominance of estrogen does contribute to it tremendously. So in addition to that, I would say things like red meat, pork, and fried foods. I don't really eat fried foods. When I did go on vacation, I did steal a couple of French fries off of my husband's plate.
Oh, that's my favorite food.
Right, exactly. I mean, they should be illegal. They're so good. But other than that, that's pretty much it. No dairy, no red meats, no fried foods, sugar free. I don't really like sugar free products per se because they have other additives that are just as bad, if not worse, than consuming regular sugar products. So, yeah, those would be the
Wow.
main items. Uh-huh.
Yes, and those everything that you named is doable. And it's like we
Hmm.
can flavor it up, juice it up. We can add our creativity to it so it can
Hmm.
just sit well with us. You mentioned about cancer, and that runs so deeply like in the Black
Hmm.
community. Have you
Hmm.
noticed why is it so known that that cancer is taking us out?
That's a really good question. I'm no cancer expert, but what I do know is, so for by profession, I am an employee benefits consultant. So what that means, Tara, is that I negotiate business to business contracts with insurance carriers on behalf of employers. So companies that have anywhere between 250 employees up to about 5,000, I'm on the front line with the CFO, with the owner, or whoever the decision maker is, negotiating a multi-million dollar contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield, Aetna, United Healthcare, whatever. So I said all that to say, although I'm not an expert with cancer, I do know that cancer does tend to be more dominant in the Black community. The main reason why, though, is because all of the social determinants of health, meaning the lack of access, our environment in which we're born and raised in, lack of, resources, things of that nature. So, because of that, we are more likely not to have health insurance. And because we don't have health insurance, something that may have been detected around the same time as our white counterpart who does have insurance would tend to be more detrimental to us and more fatal, Or if you have access to it, it's so expensive when you go to use your insurance policy. So that would deter someone from actually utilizing it because if your copay is going to be $100 or $1,500, contingent upon where you are in life, what your situation is, that may deter you from actually going to get treatment. So, that can definitely be one of the key factors, but also because of our environment. That is one of the main social determinants of health, And this is a whole different conversation that I can go into, but when you're in Black communities, predominantly Black communities, they tend to have a landfill nearby. They tend to want to build, cell phone towers nearby. All those items contribute to our health factors. So to answer your question, why is it that Black folks are impacted more? Those are some of the main key reasons why.
Wow, that is
Hmm.
literally all of that. It's just like, is this world against us or no? Like, just
Depends on who you ask.
just everything that you were naming, and it's just so important that we are conscious and aware of what we are
Yeah,
up against, and how
yeah.
you mentioned what you do about negotiating business
Mhm,
deals like this. Can you
mhm.
talk to us deeper about the power of negotiating?
I'm really impressed that you asked that question because no one ever asked me that question. I told them what I do. First and foremost, what I do is I'm on the front line, and you rarely see someone who looks front line. Normally, when we are in the insurance industry, we're usually in customer service, a toll-free number that you call in when you get to the pharmacy and your insurance card is not working or something like that. Um, so yeah, I mean with that, so we're talking about employee benefits, which includes group medical, group dental, group disability, group life insurance, vision insurance, voluntary benefits such as like a cancer policy, an accident policy, a hospital policy. So I have to be familiar with just about every insurance carrier's provider network offerings, every insurance carrier's product offerings, their portfolio offerings. So I have knowledge to know, okay, based on your employer group demographic. You have employees solely here in the state of Georgia. You don't have employees spread out across the country or even across the world, right? I will have an idea of which insurance carrier may be more suitable to you, to the employer versus another. If you have employees in different states, if you're mainly in West Coast or East Coast, or contingent upon your industry, if you're white collar or blue collar, where you have more employees in a factory or more employees in an office setting, more engineering firms or attorney firms, I have to be cognizant and knowledgeable about which insurance carrier may be more suitable for you and your employees' needs. But the second layer to that is now having to fit a square peg into a square peg into a round hole, meaning if your budget is only allowing for a 10% increase, but your insurance carrier is saying, hey, because of all these claims and all these bills that we paid for you guys, when your plan goes up for renewal, we have to give you a 25% increase. And I have to make that work by negotiating a deal or making some tweaks to your policy or going out to market to look at a different carrier option. That's intense. And, once a final decision is made, it's great. But then you have to go out and educate employees. Hey, during open enrollment, your plan is changing. This is why I always tell people when you work for a company, they offer you benefits and they have open enrollment meetings or webinars or whatever webcasts, attend those meetings. Do not buy insurance based on cost. A lot of people do that. A lot of people do it. Or they base it on name recognition. I'm going to go with Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, why? Because it's a PPO plan. That doesn't mean that it's better. Blue Cross also offers HMO or POS, just really contingent upon what your needs are, your financial needs, but also what your medical needs are, So I said that all in a roundabout way, but those are some main key factors that people need to be aware of when it comes to insurance.
That is impressive because how you mentioned before, a lot of us don't have insurance. And how important is it to have insurance?
So I tell people like this, having insurance is expensive. I will never say that's not expensive, but not having insurance is 10 times more expensive. Wow. Think of if you're driving a car, right? Let's say your car insurance bill may be $100, $200 a month, right? You never get into a car wreck. You're like, gosh, I just wasted $200 every single month. Haven't gotten into a car wreck in 5 years. Year 6, if you get into a 6-car pileup and you don't have insurance, that's going to be 10 times more expensive than you paying $200 a month. Same thing with medical insurance, same exact thing.
This is like long-term thinking right here.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. It's an investment. You have to look at it as investing in yourself, investing in your body. I tell people, look at insurance as an investment on you, on your being. We insure our cell phones. When we buy the policies, there's insurance policy on our cell phone. We insure our homes, our car. Why not insure yourself? We'll go investigate how much some sneakers cost or some hair weave costs, and we'll slack up on the darn insurance. So I always tell people to make sure you're paying attention, ask questions. And the biggest tip one tip I would actually give people is when your job offers life insurance, always take it. Always take it. When they offer voluntary life insurance, meaning it's available to you, but you have to pay for it yourself, always take it. Always buy it, because it's going to be cheaper if you get it in a group setting versus going out on your own to get it.
And that's what we all came here to do. Like, we can't break the inevitable. Like, that's gonna happen,
Right. So it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when, and no one knows, right? So you always want to make sure that you're protecting yourself at all times.
I love how you mentioned how we have to take care of our bodies, and that just reminds me how we have to prioritize ourselves, and especially just doing the womb work as well. Can you talk to us about the benefits of the womb work and healing our womb?
So it's so important to take the lead in womb wellness. And the reason why is because it's so funny, because now I have to watch what I say. Since I started the fibroid pandemic, I would always say, we're given one womb, take care of it the best way you can, until I just encountered a young lady who sent me, I believe she sent me a DM a couple of weeks ago, just recently, saying that she was born with 2 wombs, 2 cervixes and 2 uteruses. And I was like, oh, wow, learn something new every single day. But,
Wow.
you know, as a rule of thumb, the majority of us are born with one. So take best care of it because this is going to follow you to your death. So, when I say take a lead in womb wellness, get in tune with your body, understanding what it means, looking for the different signs. But not only that, have questions, have conversations and those, difficult conversations with your family members. Get to know your family medical history. Ask grandma, ask your great grandmother about what was it like when they grew up with their menstrual cycle. Did they have any issues with excuse me, with reproductive health? 9 times out of 10, they probably didn't back then. It's more prominent now. But more than likely, they did experience uterine fibroids. Back then, they called them tumors. It wasn't until I received my diagnosis that, I learned that my mother had a uterine fibroids, but again, she had what's called a tumor surgery. I learned my mother-in-law, my husband didn't even know that his mother had them. He had no idea, his godmother, my sisters, my niece, my cousins, best friends. Once I started having that conversation, Tara, it's like the floodgates open. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this? Like, had I known then what I know now, I would have been able to watch for the signs of how my body was changing, But with womb wellness, it doesn't only stop with having those conversations. It doesn't only stop with really learning what foods to eat. You also have to get in tune spiritually
Mm.
and mentally, emotionally, because stress plays a key factor in a lot of these infertility issues, a lot of these reproductive and womb issues. I can tell you for certain, a lot of times when women look back into their medical history, they look back into previous years in their life, when their menstrual cycles were the worst, when their headaches were the worst, when their infertility issues or reproductive issues were the worst that they've experienced, 9 times out of 10, it was during a time in which they're going through something detrimental, whether it was a breakup with the relationship, whether it was an issue at work, whether they're struggling with something emotionally, psychologically, mentally. If you look back at your life and really, really hone in on it, a light bulb goes off. You're like, holy crap, that's when I was going through a divorce. Holy crap, that's when I lost my child. Oh my gosh, that's when my dog died. That's when I lost my house. That's when I lost my job. When I tell you stress, like for me personally, when my stress levels are raised, I can almost literally feel my fibroids. I was told not to say my fibroids, but I
Mm.
can literally feel the fibroids expanding. Now, my body's at a point to where, because I have had a procedure, outpatient procedure called UFE, uterine fibroid embolization. It's not surgery. I was in and out within 4 to 6 hours. Didn't get cut, but they're still there, but they have shrank a lot. So I'm able to live regularly as though I don't have them, but they're there. Um, but yeah, those are a lot of key things to be aware of because it doesn't just stop with the food. That mental, emotional, psychological, that's a whole other animal in and of itself.
Oh, let's talk about that animal right there because I realized that dealing with a relationship heartbreak can really lead you to your grave.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. 1,000% yes. When
That's
they
heartbreaks.
can die from a broken heart, there is that is 1,000% true. You can die from a broken heart. Absolutely.
Wow.
Hmm.
So, as women, how do you maintain your emotions and to have emotional intelligence throughout this journey? Because,
Hmm.
of course, as feminine beings, we have a nurturing spirit, we feel.
Right.
So, how do you
Right.
maintain yours?
That's a really great question. First and foremost, you have to get in tune with who you are and what you are and whose you are. I am a woman of God. I know my purpose in life, and I also know my purpose to other people. So once you realize that, you will then have a clear picture of your direction, what your purpose is on life, right? So with me, meditation is very critical. Qigong is so helpful. When I was preparing for my procedure, The doctor wanted because they said I had what's called slightly elevated high blood pressure, just slightly elevated high blood pressure, not high, but it wasn't quote unquote normal. Um, I really focused on my mental rather than getting on some because they wanted to prescribe me some prescriptions. And excuse me, I started to do yoga and qigong. And qigong is kind of like a tai chi almost. There's a lot of deep breathing with it. I'll tell you one thing. When I did my very first yoga class, I laughed my ass off. My first class, I laughed at myself because I was like, put my leg where? And my arm goes, what? Are you kidding me? How does this even work? How can you contort your body like that? But, I also incorporated essential oils. So I would actually go to yoga class and I think I might have one here, bring one of my essential oils. And as I'm stretching, I would take the cap off and just smell it because the essential oils really helps your body to relax as well. So incorporating yoga, qigong, essential oils, meditation, go get yourself a facial and a body scrub and a massage to help get rid of a lot of that stress and anxiety, but also doing detoxes. I don't go on binges. I don't go on diets. I may detox because your body needs a reset. Still a French fry off my husband's plate is more like 4 or 5 French fries. But if I'm doing it on a regular basis, I gotta reset. And I rarely ever do that. But when you do, not only that, when you're exposing yourself to so many external stressors, you tend to internalize it, and that's going to affect your body, whether you have reproductive or womb issues or any type of medical condition. So doing a detox every so often is very great, is very healthy, as long as you're not just doing it too often. Think of it like this: when you drive a car, you have to clean it out. You got to go get an oil change, right? If you don't, it's going to get clogged up and all that nasty gook is going to be in there, and you are going to blow your engine, right? Same thing with the body. Once you have all these stressors and so much anxiety built up in these conditions, you got to clean it out. So detoxes are very, very helpful. Just be cognizant of the type of detox that you do. I don't really believe in doing a lot of the really harsh detoxes. My detox mainly just consists of just juicing a ton of fruits and veggies and just really incorporating that, because to me that's more natural, and you get a lot of the natural elements through the vitamins and minerals as well.
Wow, that is incredible. Everything that you were naming just like brought me into my feelings of my feminine energy. And I realized just how important, especially Black women, step into that
Mhm.
power. Like stepping
Mhm.
into that power, because we are so known for being the strong Black woman, being in our masculine
Mhm.
energy, being single with it, like not asking for help. Can you just guide us on the divine feminine energy?
Absolutely. First of all, put that cape down, ladies. You don't have to be superwoman about everything. You don't. Put the cape down. It's okay to retire the cape once and for all. It's okay. It's okay not to be the best at everything. It is okay not to have to prove yourself. It is okay to not be okay. It's okay to let someone else take the lead. It's okay. It's okay to say, you know what? While I may not necessarily need a man, I want a man. I want a companion. Whatever, whether it's a man or female, you want a companion in your life. That is okay to be honest with yourself. I tell you one thing, Tara. When I got to a point in my life where I was honest with what I want, that's when God sent my husband. I gave up on. I was like, this is for the birds, whatever. I gave up. And he was right there in front of me. I wasn't even looking. And I was honest though when I met him early on. I was like, you know what? I want a relationship and I want to be married. And he's like, well, I just got out of a divorce and, I don't know if I'm ready for that. And I said, you know what? I appreciate you for telling me. But at that point, it was up to me to deal with him on my own accord. I knew he didn't want what I wanted. So take me out sometimes when I wanted to get some dinner and drinks, or when I just wanted a companion and I enjoyed his company, he enjoyed my company. But I had to make sure I did not lose sight of what he told me, because oftentimes we think we can change a man, we can change a significant other. They're not going to change until they are ready to change. And when they'll never change. Men or women, they will change when they're ready. But it's not because you're telling them to change or because you're trying to make them change. So for me, I was very okay with where we were. And as we continued to spend more time together, that's when we had an adult conversation. Like, okay, what are we doing here? I stood my ground because I knew what I wanted. You go into, no, I don't want to be in, okay, I don't want that either. I don't want a relationship either. When in all actuality, you probably really do. It's okay to say that you do. And guess what? If he doesn't, maybe that's not the person for, if he or she doesn't, that's probably not the individual for you. And that's okay. To me, thank you for letting me know early on, because that's a closer step to my yes, closer step to my forever. It doesn't mean that if they say no, that the world is over. No. I mean, of course, we want what we want, who we want, and how we want it, but that may not be the person for you. And that's okay. That's okay. That's
Oh,
okay.
it's like, how do we get to being okay? I love how you mentioned how you you got to the place where you let go and your husband was right in front of you. And that was just
Hmm.
when you were like, you really were in the flow, in your alignment, in your space, and
Hmm.
that's when the blessings come. How did you get
Yeah.
there?
It's so funny because, I mean, to be honest, I was over it. A lot of failed relationships, unfulfilled promises. And, I had a son, and I realized that, like, I need to just kind of focus on him. And so that's what I started to do. I started to pour all my energy into him. And my husband and I, we actually met. We used to work in the same office building. It was like a high rise building here in Atlanta. And we would see each other. It was like maybe 15, 17 floors, something. We would see each other on the elevator or downstairs in the cafeteria or just in passing or whatever. Never really didn't know much about each other at all. And I was actually out downtown Atlanta with one of my best friends one night, who just so happened to also be a male. He and I were out, and my now husband came up to me, he goes, "Don't you still you work in such and such building?" I was like, "Yeah." So we exchanged numbers. We danced a little bit. He offered me a drink. I remember getting a bottle of water, and we exchanged numbers. And I called him first. And I remember the very first phone call. He was at Atlanta Hawks game, and he couldn't take my call because he was out with his mentee. And I was like, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, I'm busy. I can't talk to you right now. I'm out at a game with my mentee." And I was like, "You know what? Whatever." So called me back, and I remember our first date being a lunch date, and I was like, "This dude is so corny." He probably thought the same thing about me, but
The corny ones be the husbands, though.
I would not trade him for the world, honey, because I can take him to a work function, and he knows how to act accordingly.
Wow.
I can He can be around my son and be a positive role model. I
Mhm.
can take family, my brothers, my sisters, and it's the same when I'm with his family. It's just all organic. But like I said, he was very spot on about not wanting anything, and I had to accept that. I had to accept it, and I'm glad that I did. I'm
Mm.
glad.
Wow, that just causes
Mhm.
a lot of patience. And sometimes as
Mhm.
women, we can't handle the truth, though.
That's the thing, we can't. And all honesty, I haven't always been in this place in my life. I was like, oh no. I was one of those women who, when you told me the truth, I get ticked off about it. But at the end of the day, I always want a person to respect me rather than, and because of that, I always respect him because he told me he stood in his truth. And I couldn't be mad at him. I couldn't be mad at him. But people oftentimes stand in their truth, but we don't want to acknowledge it. We don't want to hear it. We don't want to accept it. Even getting back to the womb wellness part, Like with me, when my doctor said I need to get a hysterectomy. So with that whole situation, he and I started dating, and we both agreed that we were a little bit too mature in age to have a unplanned pregnancy. So we agreed to get the Mirena IUD. Got the IUD in a certain number of years. I think it's 4 to 5 years. The IUD needs to be replaced because it expires. Went in to get it replaced. She couldn't find it. My doctor, who I was going to at the time for about 12 years, she couldn't find the IUD. So she sent me into ultrasound. The ultrasound tech did a topical ultrasound, couldn't find the IUD. So they did a vaginal ultrasound, and there the IUD was right there front and center. So she goes, the tech says to me, I see your IUD, looks great. By the way, how are your fibroids coming along? And I go, what's that? I had no idea that there were fibroids on my uterus. So she politely is like, I'll let you talk to the doctor. She knew, I could tell that she probably spoke out of turn. So I get back in there with the doctor. Now, this is all within the same exact doctor visit. I get back in with the doctor, and the doctor goes, yeah, so we saw fibroids on your uterus on the ultrasound, and I recommend a hysterectomy. And I was like, wait, time out. So remember, this is all within the same exact doctor visit. I'm going to get an IUD replaced, which is a very standard in and out procedure. I'm sorry, it's not even a procedure. It's an in and out doctor visit. And I'm leaving with the recommendation to get a hysterectomy. What? So this is where taking the lead on your womb wellness comes into gear. I asked her questions. She couldn't really answer the questions. And then she was very cavalier about it. I was like, well, what really causes them? How did I get them? Are they sexually transmitted, or are they hereditary? Is it based on like what is it? I heard of the term fibroid before. I didn't know if it was fibroids or fibroid or I had no idea. Yeah. And she couldn't really answer. She just said, and I'll never, ever, ever forget this. She told me, she said, there's no known cause, but it's like kudzu. If you cut them out, they'll just grow back, which is why I recommend getting a hysterectomy. And kudzu is a weed that grows outside from the. So you're comparing my womb, the soul to my being, where women birth children. You're comparing that to a weed, to weeds? Oh no, hell no. So my type A personality, I was so thrown off. I did my own, and I couldn't believe it. And then to add fuel to the fire, Tara, she actually had her scheduling tech call me a couple of days later to put me on the schedule for a hysterectomy. And I was done. But I said all that to say, getting into the driver's seat of your life, taking responsibility back. If I would have listened to my doctor when she said I have a hysterectomy, I would be a wombless woman right now going through surgical menopause. Because when you have a hysterectomy, it thrusts you into what's called surgically induced menopause, which tends to be a lot more tasking to the body than going through menopause naturally. So, again, just being an advocate for yourself, stay in your truth, do your research,
Yes. And that causes for us to unblock our throat chakra so we can speak up. How, and because I know you mentioned about having these hard conversations so we can know our history, to know how this might occur. How did you get there to have these hard conversations, to ask these type of questions, to have this type of courage like this? Because we can really be lost in the sauce and not advocate for ourselves.
That's very true. And oftentimes we are lost, For me, I have a type A personality, and 9 times out of 10, if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to do it. I'm going to prove to you that I can do it. Or vice versa. If you tell me I can't do it, or vice versa. If you tell me I can, I'm going to show you where I won't do it, or vice versa. So for me, it was difficult because I never really had any real medical conditions that I'm aware of. So for her going from having your IUD replaced to needing a hysterectomy, it was so drastic for me. And I just couldn't accept the hysterectomy portion of it. I was just like, wait, time out, slow down. Let's rewind. Let's kind of gather ourselves. Let's kind of let me get my head around this, And In the same visit, she recommended a hysterectomy the same day, the same moment, the same doctor visit as when you're diagnosing me with uterine fibroids. So I remember hearing the term before, but I didn't know a lot about it. So I started doing my own research. I mean, honestly, that's as simple as it was. I read medical journals, I read scholar articles, I joined coaching programs, Aboriginal, coaching. And I found out a lot of information about it, and I did my pros and cons, and I dealt with it for a couple years. I sat there with the, fibroids growing and getting worse for about 2.5 years, 3 years. And one friend of mine said to me, because I'm seeing her at the gym, one of my gym buddies, she said, hey, because we just had a little conversation. So she's like, hey, you still dealing with fibroids? And I said, yeah. She goes, you should go get a consultation. I had the UFE procedure done. I go, no, it's not for me. And to be very open, I didn't want to go to a white doctor, for several reasons. You hear about we can, the Tuskegee experiment, so many other things, right? So I was just really against that. And I was like, you know what? It's not getting any better. I called the doctor and had very disappointing results, and not results, but just my experience, not even really getting to a point where I was even able to have a doctor visit. They dropped the ball so many times. And I was like, you know what? It's not going to kill me to just go in and have a consultation. So I had a consultation, and that was one of the best consultations I've had, aside from one. And I decided I'm just going to go ahead and give it a shot. I was very keen on not wanting to get cut, though. I didn't want to get cut open and have an open surgery. And, because there's so many risks. There's risks to everything. Any type of procedure or surgery that we do, there's risks to it. So once I got my head around really understanding what the risks were, I went for it. I told my husband, make sure, because I never had surgery before or anything. Never really even went under, other than when I had oral surgery, right? When I got my implant in. I was like, make sure my life insurance is good, and here's my week. And now he's like, oh, you are so dramatic. But I got to that point of wanting to really put myself first, getting back into the driver's seat of life. I did it. And I will tell you the truth, it was probably the best thing I've ever decided to do, because now I don't have a lot of those issues I was having with fibroids. I don't have a lot of the constipation, the pica, the anemia, the brain fog, the lethargy, the really bad menstrual cycles. I got to a point, Tara, to where I had to double up, wearing the tampon and the pad, and had to change them within every hour. I couldn't fathom what that was like, because that was never me. But when it became me, when the fibroids got so bad and it consumed my life, where I would have to base my road trips around my menstrual cycle, or I have to base on, okay, well, we have to stop here on the way to our destination, because I have to make sure I check myself, and constantly wearing all black and looking at the seat when I get up. That's no way to live your life. You become a hostage in your own body, of your own body. And that's no way to live your life. So when I say take lead and put yourself back into the driver's seat of your life, it's all about investing in yourself. And again, we focus on all these other outside elements and all these materialistic things that we invest in, or that we put our energy towards. And it's time to really put energy towards yourself. You are stuck with you for the rest of your life. So why not make the best of it? Right?
Wow. That's so powerful, because I really believe about having so much fun on this journey, how we cannot be a prison in this body. Of course, we must take care of this temple. How you said, listening to our body, but also doing all of this and getting so impacted by investing into ourselves. How did that empower your spiritual life, your soul life right now in this moment? How you mentioned about just this material world, we're so focused on the scene and what we got going on outside of us, how have you been empowered by your spiritual life from this?
You know, that's a really great question. So for me, I just focus on what really matters most to me, what's most important. And what's most important to me is my friends and family. You know, oftentimes we as beings, we get so caught up in the microwave society, the here and now, wanting immediate results, right? You got to work for it. You got to do your research. You got to put in the work. You have to stay focused on whatever it is you're trying to control. We focus so much on, social media and all these external elements that comparison becomes a thief of joy. You know, don't let anybody steal your joy. Be focused on what's most important to you. So my spiritual journey, I like had to hit rock bottom and really cry out and pray and weep. I mean, there's a difference between crying and weeping. I wept like, God, please show me, allow my heart to open up and to entrust in you to guide me. Because a lot of times we ask for guidance, but we don't allow ourselves to open up to entrust to trust the guidance. That's a whole different level, and let me be humble, because when you get to a point in your life and things are starting to move in the right pace and everything seems to be falling in place, you cannot lose sight of where you come from, of where things once were, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. You can't get too hooked up on the fact that, it can be something as simple, again, womb wellness. I've been able to use my own research to help me get to a point in my life where I feel like I can live a normal life, but I can never forget what that was like when I had to change my menstrual, my pads every single hour on the hour. I can't forget that. And by me staying, humble about that, that allows me, Tara, to go and educate the next woman, to educate my niece, my niece, my cousin, my sister, my best friend about, listen, you need to watch out for this. When you go to a doctor, ask them these questions, advocate for yourself. And now it's so funny because for those who didn't really pay attention, they're reaching out. So I remember this fibroid thing. Well, guess what? I went to the doctor and I got a diagnosis of it. What does all this mean? Or they're calling me, oh my God, my doctor said I have fibroids and I don't want to die. And I'm like, no.
I don't want to die.
Right. And I mean, it's like, knowing that I can use my personal, like, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a physician by any means. I'm not a surgeon. I'm just a normal girl who took my own personal experience and I'm using that to help women. And again, I don't have nearly all the answers, but the answers that I do have been proven to help women. And as long as I can continue doing this, I'm going to continue doing it.
And the best teacher is this life. That's the best experience to have. Like, all this schooling, that don't really mean anything. When you qualified and stamped by God, that's a whole nother level of responsibility.
It's a whole other level. It really is. And it opens up a third eye, if you will, of things that you have no idea even exists. And it's hard. Once it's there, you can't turn it off. Once it's there, you can't turn it off. It's like saying, like, probably not the best example, but once you lose your virginity, you can never get it back. So it's like, once your eyes are open wide to it, and I can see, okay, listen, sweetheart, if you eliminate these 3 things, you'll start seeing results in 2 weeks. You'll start feeling differently. Like these 3 things, if you eliminate these 3, or if you incorporate these 2 items, you'll start seeing and feeling your body healing. Like, why wouldn't I want to tell somebody that? Like, why wouldn't I feel obligated? It's so funny because I remember, and I kind of get emotional when I talk about it, but I remember about a year before I had my procedure, my husband and I were talking, and I said, I was like racking my brain. I said, babe, I feel like God is calling me to help people. I feel it in my gut, but I don't know what it is. I don't know. And I know I'm supposed to be helped. I know it. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, I know I'm supposed to help people. That was my purpose of being born. I don't know what the hell that looks like, though. And here's You talk about like, I don't know. So after I had my procedure, I posted on my personal Facebook page a couple months later, not thinking much about it. It's kind of like a joke, like haha, because he filmed me when we were in the recovery room and I was talking about the land of the Smurfs. Lord, it was so funny. And I didn't even remember it. So he filmed me and showed me like a couple days later. I was like, wait, what? And so I posted that video to kind of shed light, but also to share my story of what I had been going through. Because I said, listen, if I can help one person, guess what? I had tremendously succeeded. So after I made that post, Tara, when I tell you the response that I got between DMs, text messages, telephone calls, emails, or whatever, or just comments on the post itself, it took for my cousin to have to say, girl, did you see your Facebook? I'm like, no. When I went back and I was reading it and I just started crying. And I just started crying and crying and crying. And right then and there, a light bulb went off. I said, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is it. And so I remember talking to one of my best friends, Tarika, and she just, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I can take this to help, but I don't know what. She goes, just start an Instagram post. And I goes, Instagram page. I'm like, Sam, what? I don't even know what direction to go. She goes, you'll figure it out. And thank God I did that because I didn't know what direction. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think my very first post says something to the effect of the fibroid pandemic coming soon. And in all transparency, I was going to name my company the Fibroid Epidemic. But then what's the difference between because I didn't know. All honesty.
Wow.
The pandemic and epidemic. It was going to be called the Fibroid Epidemic. And once I realized that pandemic is global, I was like, oh my God, this is it. And I stuck with it. And so many people are like, that is so on point.
It is so on point with today's time as well. So what's the difference between epidemic and pandemic?
Yeah, pandemic, right?
You heard me?
I mean, hey, that's another right? Epidemic is global. Epidemic is domestic. Pandemic is global. And because women across the globe are affected by fibroids, it is a fibroid pandemic.
Wow.
See? I'm not the only person who didn't know.
I'm telling you, that is so powerful how you listen to God, how you acted on it, how you didn't have to know all the answers. All you did was have to start with a Facebook post, the Instagram post. How did you ended up releasing the fact that you didn't have to know what was going to happen next throughout the post, to just obeying God like that and letting God just truly grab the wheel?
You know what I did? Again, because I'm like, well, who's going to listen to me? I'm not a doctor. I'm not a surgeon. I'm not a coach. You have all these health coaches and all these life coaches. I'm none of them, not one. And God was like, but you're the perfect person because you can use your own personal experience. Now, when you have let's say you go through, drug rehabilitation, you know how many more people are more successful at coming through that program successfully when they're coached by someone who was there, by someone who was a drug addict or either alcoholic, versus someone who just studied the book knowledge, right? That's me. I'm that former drug addict. Like that. The former drug addict of Boom Wellness.
Yes, it affects you when you experience it firsthand. That's a game changer right there.
It's a game changer.
We have these professors teaching business, but don't even have their own business. So
isn't it backwards?
It's so backwards. It's so backwards.
But that's part of the third eye. Like when you realize that, you're like, wait a minute, why are you teaching me?
Yeah, but sis, it's like this world makes us feel like we have to qualify ourselves by having this degree on the wall. We have to be labeled this and labeled that and be qualified by a white university to just step
Yeah.
into our knowing and our divine.
Hmm. That is so true. I mean, even like with me, like I have all these, my professional designations and my degrees. I don't care about none of that stuff. Like honestly, I don't. I don't. And but it takes for a person who has accomplished that to really feel or to say that. Someone who's trying to get it is kind of difficult to tell them that, just like I was talking to a family member recently and I told him, I said, true happiness, because we're talking about finances. And I was like, true happiness is not based on your riches. For me, I I focus on my happiness. It's not about the money. It's not about the money. And I remember he said it takes a person with money to realize that though. You can never tell a person who's poor that they can be happy without money.
Yeah.
Like, you're right. I could not debate that at all. It's true. It's true, right?
Wow. But then once you realize like the true meaning of this life is nothing outside of ourselves. The
Mm-mm.
secret answer is you. It's been you all
That's
along.
the answer. It's been you all, and you've just been whirling in circles trying to figure out this whole. Let me tell you, when I lay down at night, and I can honestly say, God, I gave life my best shot today, or even if I didn't give it my best shot because I was tired of just being lazy,
Mhm.
again, just staying focused on, never forgetting who you are, where you come from, and I don't mean environmentally, just what you have overcome as an individual. If you have overcome anything in your life, any type of hurdle, that's something to be grateful of because people here on this earth, they don't all walk the same path. And a lot of times people tend to be, I do believe that, and I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I do believe that people tend to be sadder more than what they are happier. But because oftentimes they focus on the wrong thing. They focus on the wrong thing. Like I was saying to you earlier before we got started, we went to Jamaica on a trip and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to live it. That's because I never been there. I
Mm.
never been where they are, right? But I mean, where I am now, please, a
Mm.
lot of that doesn't matter. A lot of the stuff that people do and all these accolades and, again, the microwave society wanting stuff here and now. Mm-mm. It's so much greater stuff in life than that. It really, really is. It's so much greater stuff. And the stuff that really matters is all within. The stuff that really matters, And when I talk to my mentees, I tell them, school is great, but knowledge is better
Mm.
because strip you of all your accolades. They can strip you of your finances. They can strip you of your titles. Look at all the Bill Cosbys of the world, right? They can strip you of everything. But what you have here and here, take that from you.
It's
That's why
untouchable.
this is so important. They can never take that from you. Whoever they are, they
Yeah.
can take that from you.
It
So focus on within. Plant those seeds. Grow your flowers within.
Wow. And once you go, that's what I realized. Once you go in, you can never go without anything. And that just leads me to the last question I have for you because I understand that with woman wellness, how powerful that is to heal that. But what if we never healed our childhood traumas though? Can you give us
Mhm.
the first step in going to that process of
Mhm.
dissecting the most important part of us is our inner child, and we cannot neglect it.
Girl, girl, it takes a lot of unpacking. When Erica Badu said, the baggage and bag lady,
Mm.
a lot of baggage that you have to unpack. Number one, unpack it slowly. Do not be in a rush. But most importantly, unpack every single bag. Don't leave anything untouched. And once you're able to unpack it and really spread it out, right? You open up your luggage and you spread out and look at all this junk, all this trauma, all this deceit, all this sadness. And you start putting it all together. So you put it back together like a nice, pretty puzzle. You will realize that overcoming what you dealt with for years on end may not have been as difficult as you thought it was at some point. And oftentimes we will realize that we are able to handle more than what we believe that we can. For example, you go to the gym and you work out and you 1 mile in on a treadmill. I hate treadmills, by the way. 1 mile and you're tired. I can't do it. I can't do it. Oh, girl, come on, come on. If you're by yourself, you're going to stop. But if you get that trainer right there next to you, they're not physically making you run. They're motivating you. They're encouraging you. They're making you feel good about yourself. And what's going to happen? Before you know, you're going to be at mile 2, mile 3, mile 4. Same thing. There's no difference. You got to unpack it, look at it, but continue making sure that you don't leave any stone unturned. Don't try to move in life without leaving those stones unturned. Unturn all those damn stones. Deal with it. Get head on. And if you are not built to take it head on, get somebody who can help you. I'm a firm believer in counseling. Counseling works. Too often, Black people say, girl, Black people don't get therapy. We pray. Let me tell you something. God did not send people to school to get educated and to get the knowledge and to develop certain skill sets outside of the book knowledge, but to develop certain skill sets and certain discernment within themselves so that they can help people, right? He didn't do that for no reason. Go to therapy. Ain't nothing wrong. I mean, therapy is, and there can be different forms of therapy. Therapy can be simply getting a mentor. Therapy can simply, be you and God one-on-one. Therapy does not mean you got to go lay on somebody's couch. And that's great. That's amazing if you find the right connection. If you can do that as well, do it. Invest in yourself. But do not leave any of those stones unturned, because it will turn back up sometime in your life. And usually it's going to be at the most inconvenient time.
LaToya, I just want to thank you for your wisdom, the love, your service, and your heart for what you do, because you were called to do everything that God has put you through. It does not happen. It's not a coincidence. Like, this is all ordained. And I just want to thank you so much for everything that you do.
Absolutely. I mean, Tara, I appreciate it. Like, when I tell you it's in my gut, like I find myself having to purposely, intently stop myself from talking about the fibroid pandemic. I have to intently stop myself from, oh, babe, what about this? What about that? And just talk about regular life. It's okay not to talk about business all the time, but that's how I know this is what God has called me to do, because I can't. I cannot change it.
That is exactly how if anybody doesn't know what they're supposed to do. What do you talk about the most? What do you love and want to just give back? How you said you had all this knowledge and you just have to share to guide us, to empower us, because we don't know. No one teaches us this stuff about our womb and wellness and about relationships and unpacking. So the fact that you're just taking the lead on that, it's powerful for us.
I appreciate that so much. I really do.
How can we keep in touch with you, and what do you have up and coming so we can support you?
Well, thank you for asking. You can follow me on Instagram at the Fibroid Pandemic. I also have a private Facebook group called the Fibroid Pandemic. There's actually 2 fibroid pandemics on Facebook. Both of them are me. The one with the actual face logo is the one I use mostly. I do have a YouTube channel called the Fibroid Pandemic. I actually have to focus on that a lot more. I'm not there. I'm rarely over there. I just recently joined Clubhouse under Fibroid Pandemic. So everything is the Fibroid Pandemic except for Clubhouse is Fibroid Pandemic. And via email, info@thefibroidpandemic.com. And I have this wonderful event that's coming up. I just cannot stand it anymore. I have this event that I'm doing. When is this actually going to go? When are you going to post this?
Oh, hey, we can post it next week. Let's post.
Okay, let me think. Okay, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to mention it. But I have this event I've been cooking up for 2 years. because of coronavirus last year, I had to kind of put it on a back burner. Um, I just signed the contract. It's going to be an amazing resource for women. And I definitely hope that women buy into what I'm doing. Turn on the Instagram notifications, sign up for my email list. If you're on my email list, you're actually going to get first dibs on it. And this is something, I'll just say this is something that I hope will eventually be on a global scale at some point. So I'll say that.
Oh, it will.
And then once I announce it, we could come back and do this all over again if you don't.
Oh, yes. That is so exciting. Once you see it, it's already in fruition. It's already in process. It's just time to just walk into it and just keep taking one day at a time. But everything is going to line up how it should.
Absolutely. And that's so true. Just trust the process. Trust the process.
Oh, LaToya, please leave us off, because trusting the process is like so key to this journey, but also leave us off with some womb wisdom so we can just live a better life of healing ourselves and taking better care of ourselves.
Yeah, so Tara, I'll just end our conversation with what I had mentioned earlier. Get back into the driver's seat of your life, invest in yourself, invest in your physical, emotional well-being, your spiritual well-being. Most importantly, have those conversations with your family members. Get to understand and know what your family medical history is. Have those discussions with your doctors. Have a second or third opinion, but also focus on what you're intaking, what you're consuming, because at the end of the day, this is the only womb you're giving that I know so far, right? Make the best of it. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself.
Owe it to yourself. We got to be our biggest cheerleaders, our best friends. We got to be all that, our soulmate.
Your biggest advocate. That's right.
We got to start playing with ourselves.
That's right.
Thank you, LaToya. You are so incredible, such a queen. I'm just so thankful to be on this journey with you. So
my pleasure. Again, thank you for having me. It was amazing talking to you. I knew it was going to be. I knew when we first met, we just gelled. Like, ooh, I like her energy.
Oh my goodness. And this was truly so much powerful. So I know all the listeners is going to pick up everything that you were dropping. So take notes. They gotta rewind this back, play it back so they can get their notepad out.
That's right.
Thank you again, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in, tapping in, and we will meet you at the top.